Okay, well, hello and welcome everyone to this week's webinar. We're very fortunate again today to have Chris Morris, an expert speaker on social media, all-round good guy, fellow Leeds fan, and I'll pass you over to him now, and he can introduce himself and talk to you about all the stuff we're going to speak on today.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. Come on, Leeds. I'll just quickly share my slides. There we go. Brilliant. Thank you guys for putting your camera on. If you've got any questions, please just pop them in the chat. This session going to be about an hour and a half maximum. Try and keep it quite interactive and pacey as well, to know what these things are like when you just sat here looking at a screen and listening to some random person talking for a while. Yeah, so today I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey, a bit of a tongue, give you some practical advice on how to develop a social media strategy that works for business, based off my 7 years experience of running Shoo social media. Okay, so who am I? I'm Chris Morris. I'm the co-founder of Shoo. We're based in Ilkley in Ben Meridian in Yorkshire, for those who don't know it. We are social media marketing and advertising specialists, and yeah, we've been there for 7 years now. And yeah, and for me personally, I believe in challenging what's possible so that others are inspired to achieve their own greatness. I'll go into my history a little bit later. But essentially, what I'm going to be giving you today is based off real life knowledge, experience, tried and tested strategies that we've delivered for both clients across the UK and abroad as well. I'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, so quick icebreaker just to check the chat is working. Could you please put into chat one word, just one word, what you think social media is? Social media is. What do you think it is? Just a quick chat check. I'm going to try and get you interactive today. Anybody? Come on, guys. Thank you. Thanks, Nikki. Thanks, Martha. Thanks, Katie. Communication people. Any more? Any more? A great way to engage with an audience of people. Yep, absolutely. Networking, connecting, online platforms. Absolutely. Great. You're on the right lines. So you can probably see from the chat, and for those who are going to be watching this webinar back, there are lots of different ways you could define social media, and we'll get into those a little bit later. But essentially, it's about communication. It's about connecting with people and using user-generated content that is communicated online for people to consume. So by that I mean they can interact with, they can watch, they can read, they can digest that information, and it's a fantastic way of communicating. So this session this afternoon, we're going to be covering these areas on the screen, and please ask questions as we go. I'm going to try and keep interactive where I can, but I'm going to take you on a little bit of a tour, a little bit of a journey into the world of social media and social media marketing. So to set the scene, we have this lady, some of you may have come across her, Alyssa Carson, and she's on a fast track. She's an astronaut to become one of the first, if not the first person, particularly the female person, to go to Mars. Why do I mention that? It's fantastic to have an aspiration in your career. Some of you may have that today into the world of marketing, social media, digital. You're not quite sure, but you're looking at trying to aspire to be better. I love the story of Alyssa, because she just got very career focused and she knows what she wants to do. So hopefully I can help you along your journey with some practical tips today. This guy is worth listening to. Really good TED Talks on YouTube if you want to learn a little bit more. But essentially, people buy what you do. They want to know what gets you out of bed in the morning. And if you're going for interviews, or you're starting a job, or you're working in the social media world already, people really need to understand what motivates you rather than what you do. Again, that's a little bit career stuff. Okay, so linking it back to myself just very quickly. I've got a massive wide career in everything under the sun. You can see some of the places and establishments I've worked at on the screen. Started at 16, working at Safe Style UK, and that's pretty much in the order of my career journey. So what am I getting out with that? As much as I'm a co-founder of Shoo Social Media now, it's taken me a long time to get to where I am. Along the way, I've collected a wide variety of skills, everything from telesales through to customer service, through to money management, through to inbound sales, through to buying, through to becoming a teacher, where I was a teacher for 8 years pre-Shoo. And along the way, I've developed those transferable skills that I brought into the world of social media. So some of the skills you might already have. So I just think if this is a new area that you develop in the social media world, it's not necessarily you're starting from scratch. You will have experience in other sectors, life that you can bring to the table and really add value to your new role. Okay, this is the Shoo team. So what I'm going to get at in the next couple of slides is really that within social media, it's a massive, massive world. It's a massive sphere. And you might be thinking, right, I'm going to do one specific function of social media for a business. And you'd be right, you would be doing that, but there are loads of moving elements to it, everything from graphic design to media buying, to paid ads, to content, to video, to customer service, to sales. Social media has become such a massive platform for business. And it's how you kind of fit in that world and work with the team around you. Okay, this is the makeup of Shoo. We have, over the pandemic and over the last 16 months or so, we've helped around 25 to 30 students get experience and get knowledge and mentoring and access to new skills in the social media sphere to set them up into their future careers. That's part of our ethos of giving back and challenging what's possible to achieve their people's greatness. That's part of our core value. We've done that over the last 14 to 16 months to really help them guys around what we do, which is social media. Okay, so you're thinking about career in social media. This is a meme that was sent to me a few months ago and it's just stuck with me. Most people think social media is just sticking a post on Facebook. It's a waste of time. But in reality, it has a massive, massive benefit to business, and it has massive benefit, and it's great. I think it's the fourth fastest growing, digital marketing, digital jobs are the fourth fastest growing sector for jobs in the UK. So what is you've probably seen over your lifetime is that social media isn't getting any smaller. It's not going away, and it is massively important to most businesses now. So it's a career that needs to be considered. So I'm going to get to over these next slides in this session is how you can actually create a strategy that you can take away and put into practice in your new role or existing role. So proofs in the pudding. This is Fran. Fran, and there's our avatar in the bottom left-hand corner. Fran came through the Shoo Academy. We met her on a course about 3 years ago. We were delivering a series of 12 lectures at Leeds Beckett, where we helped their students. Everything I'm going to basically summarize into an hour. We did over a 12-week course, and we helped their their media communication students develop skills, run a real life campaign for Shoo. They did that fantastic. They came up with an idea, some campaigns, some content, and they ran it. They ran the campaign. Fran stood out. She came forward. She asked, could she get involved in the academy? And she did, which was great. She then helped us develop our own social media. She got involved in our team internally. And one of the projects she got involved in the top left there is the Shoocast, which is all about pulling industry experts and sharing tips and careers and knowledge. So what I'm getting at there is no one route into social media. Maybe it's work experience, maybe it's the Kickstart scheme, maybe you're already doing it, maybe you're doing it on the side. What you need to do is obviously consider what you actually want to do with your career and then go from there. Excuse me. In the Shuco system, we've developed our own system over the last 4 years that breaks down social media into 3 key areas. Social media marketing, as mentioned earlier, and advertising is a massive area. It's massive, but we can simplify it to the best of our ability in 3 strands: creative, technical, and data. So creative, you probably all realize it's all about what you see as a customer, as a user, as a content creator. It's the visual, it's the asset, it's the word, it's the video, it's everything, the content that is created by your user. That's that. Behind the scenes, what often people overlook is the technical. So it's about what goes behind the machine learning, the artificial intelligence. It's about the use of hashtags, setting up accounts properly so they cross post, so they are The APIs are set up and the scheduling tools are working together. It's all that technical side that is often overlooked. And that's speaking for my 7 years. We often come in, everyone's got kind of a good idea about what content to produce. However, they're not quite sure about how to make it work efficiently. So the technical is massively important. And then certainly the third area that is becoming more and more prominent is all about data. Data is king. Data is going to be massive. It is massive. Big data and user interactions on social media is being tracked at every opportunity. You've probably seen the recent, not war, but war inverted commas between Apple and Facebook and the iOS update about data tracking of users on smartphones. That's essentially come up because that wealth of information that you're giving freely on your mobile phone, on your smartphone here, is being tracked. And by that, I mean that information. So if you're browsing for something on your phone, if you're searching, if you're looking, or you're writing, or you're talking, or you're texting, chances are that information is being relayed back to third-party sources such as Facebook or Google or other social media platforms. What can they do with it? They can categorize, and they know exactly what you are doing. Great in terms of tracking. So I suppose you can do geographical targeting. So if I know I am in Benridden in Ilkley, which I am right now, I can be targeted with a specific ad that is tailored to me in terms of my interests, my hobbies, my psychographic, my demographic. So data is key when serving information and content that your customers or potential customers or clients are going to consume. So data is massive, and I'll get into how you can actually track some of that later. Don't underestimate the power of data. So some of the skills I suppose you probably have or you need to consider, or some of the key things we've noticed over the last 7 years are on the screen. We think that internal communication between teams is probably the most important skill when working as part of a team. And whether that's email, and I suppose where this is my personal experience, personal thoughts on this is we're all arguably too connected with the plethora of platforms and ways of communication, everything from WhatsApp to Messenger to DMs to emails to phone calls to texting. Yeah, there are loads of ways to communicate. So I suppose if you're going to a job, it's looking at the way that the company already communicates and how you can work alongside that. There might be project management tools, might be CRM systems. It's how you can work alongside that team to communicate properly to get the outcome you want. So definitely for me, one of the key skills to social media is all about communication. That's internally. It's all about communication externally. So those users who are perhaps you're talking to, your audience who you're talking to and talking with online, you need to consider the tone of voice, for example. Is it professional? Is it on brand? Is it formal? Is it quirky? Is it confrontational? What style of content are you going to be producing? So communication for me on social media is one of the if not the biggest skill I think you need to have in your arsenal. Adaptability, that's another one that's massively key. Like I mentioned earlier with the iOS changes, you need to be flexible and current and up to date with trends and what's going on in society. And then being able to adapt and come up with a strategy that is flexible. You've got a plan, you've got a strategy, but it's got to be flexible. Some skills, more specifically, you may want to learn more about. You may take the opportunities to get more experience, might be more CPD opportunities within the business or company you're at. But just to break it down into some that you could get into, behavior psychology, massively important. My degree was in psychology. So for me, the real learning there is that I've got the ability to empathize, to understand what makes my customers and my clients tick. So I can consider easier their psychographics. So what their pain points, their fears, their challenges, what are their demographics, understanding my target audience and customers. That then allows me to create and tell a story and communicate effectively. Excuse me. Excuse me. So, behavior psychology, you might be a great storyteller. Perhaps you have fantastic writing skills. Perhaps you've just left school and you remember the story mountain. You may have got taught at school, looking at a conflict, a resolution, how you tell that story. And And then how you then tell a visual story. You might be a videographer, you might be a photographer, you might have skills that allow you to tell that story using the visual asset. Perhaps you're a data-driven person. Perhaps, like me, you like the numbers, you like the analytics, you like to understand what's working with the strategy. You might have financial experience, you might understand spreadsheets, you might be good at customer service. Social media is fantastic and a key area for developing customer service with your, to serve your customers. So these are some of the skills that you're probably getting now. There's quite a lot of different ways that you can add and take your experience into the world of social media. So a quick activity for you guys is you can do this on a piece of paper. I usually find this easier. Quick A4, fold it in half and a half again, or draw 4 quadrants. This is quite a good activity just to figure out when you're thinking about social media and your role as a social media manager or marketer is what are you good at? What do you enjoy? You put that in a top box. What are you bad at, but you enjoy? What are you good at and don't enjoy? And what are you bad at and don't enjoy? I mean, you can do this obviously while I'm talking through this and through the rest of the presentation. But be interested to know at the end if someone's happy to share their little grid. This is me on a very quick table. I'm very good in the top left-hand corner. I love problem solving. I love a challenge. I love figuring out what's working, what's not working, and then if it's not working, how do we fix it? That's why I like the strategic element. That's what I enjoy. That's what I'm good at. Things I am bad at, but I enjoy. I do enjoy the creative stuff. I'm not particularly great at graphic design or animation, but I do like, particularly in the afternoon when I'm quite tired, I like to have that time just to be creative. You might think about your own working patterns on your day-to-day. In the morning, I'm very good at the spreadsheets, the technical tasks, and in the afternoon, as I get tired, I get more creative. So for me, I enjoy the creative stuff. So if you're thinking about your own working patterns, I suppose, when are you most creative? When are you most focused? What are your peak points in your day? Things I'm good at, but I don't enjoy. Things like data analysis, don't particularly like numbers. However, it allows me to problem solve. It allows me to solve a problem and create a strategy that works. So that for me, I've developed that skill over the time to make sure I have an understanding of data. And the things I really don't like, spreadsheets. I'm laughing there because my colleague that's just off screen, he loves a spreadsheet. He's pulling a face and smiling. So for me, spreadsheets are not great. However, if you're managing content and you're working with a team, you will need to have that level of detail where a spreadsheet might come in handy for organizing content maps and calendars and gaining comments and sharing links. So just have a think about your own personal skill set you could bring to the social media marketing role. Okay. So into the strategic piece. So getting on, we're making good time. There are 7 key steps, and then at the end of this session, you will have at the basis of a strategy, you can, or at least a framework to work around and go away and put in some of these tips and best practice that I'm going to share with you over these next 7 elements over the next 20 minutes, half an hour or so. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end to bring it to life. Okay, so the 7 areas in short goals, there's a problem to solve. Extend your efforts into other areas of the business. How does social media and social media marketing overlap into other areas that you might be thinking? How do we add value? Which social media channels and platforms do we look at? Which ones should we use? We're going to look at how you create content, like user-generated content that we make, maintain, and manage to engage an audience. And we're going to look at some opportunities to make the experience for customers, that customer decision journey for them, much more engaging and enjoyable. How you talk to your audience, some tips for that. And then last but not least, that data side. How do we monitor? How do we know campaign is working well? How do we know it's, what's working, that challenge, that opportunity? And how do we use the tools that are available? So along this next 7 steps, I'm going to give you some tools, some tips, some tricks. And yeah, if you've got any questions, stick it in the chat. Okay. So ensuring goals, like Alyssa Carson right at the very beginning, she's got a very clear goal. She wants to go to Mars. She wants to be the first woman on Mars in particular. And to get there, she's had to think about, right, okay, well, that's my strategy. I want to get to Mars. Great. And then she's had to think about the tactics to get there. Well, I've got to get my certain qualifications. I've got to get into NASA. I've got to do this number of experience. I've got to do my test pilots number of hours. And then she's thought about specific actions you can do. So each one of them, right, okay, well, I need to practice X number of hours to do this. I need to do a number of CPD hours to qualify for the astronaut program, for example. So goals are important. Goals are massive. But when you're thinking about social media, to bring it back to what we're here for, social media goals need to link to a business goal. So by that, it needs to solve a challenge. So if you're going into a role, it's worth asking your manager or the boss or whoever you're working with, your colleague, what is the business objective? If the business objective is revenue based, if it's customer based, you need to look for opportunities to actually challenge those opportunities. So for example, a common for me is you don't often have a high quality or high number of website visitors. That could be a particular challenge. Why is that a challenge? If we're an e-commerce site, if I'm not getting enough of the right people to my website, guess what? We're not gonna be able to sell anything. We're not gonna be able to make any profit. So website, low traffic could be a key problem. Another one, customer service. If you're not looking after customers, do they come back? If you're particularly B2B, it's harder to keep a customer. Sorry, it's harder to get a new customer than it is to keep a customer. According to the Institute of Marketing, it's 4 to 10 times more difficult to acquire a new customer than keep one. So how do you do that? You obviously then need to think about the specifics of your strategy, excuse me, to help nurture and maintain those relationships. So it's looking for opportunities is what I'm getting at to actually solve a challenge that relates to a business goal. So is it revenue based? Is it customer based? Is it brand awareness? What is it you're trying to achieve that's going to help the company and the business grow? Massively important. Okay, so just have a think about, I suppose, what if you're already doing the role, what is it your company's trying to achieve? Is it brand awareness, drive traffic, gather new leads? What are you actually trying to achieve? I suppose in chat, that might be a good first question. I suppose, what are your social media goals? You can have a quick think in chat. What are your social media goals if you're doing this job already? So is it increasing brand awareness? Is it customer retention? Is it getting more people to the website, gathering leads? Is it to get, perhaps it's to help recruit other people? Brand awareness, gathering leads, sell franchises. Yep. Thanks, Edwin. Thanks, Martha. Brilliant. So these are common. These are the most two biggest goals that businesses are actually trying to solve the challenge to. It's how do I get new customers? How do I actually get people to see my products or my service? And then how do I get them to come to my website or to engage with my brand and build up that confidence, that know, like, and trust, so that they actually want to become a customer. If they're already an existing customer, like I said, it's harder to get a new customer than it is to keep one. How do we keep them buying more from us? How do we keep their service? How do we keep them referring? How do we keep them leaving things like social proof? All of this we need to consider in your strategy about actually, engaging with customers online, increase interest and generate business. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Okay, so goals are massively important. I've got an example at the end that ties all this together. Let's go backwards. There we go. So I mentioned earlier about social media marketing. Great. You're going in and you might already be doing this as a role. You might have a goal. You might be thinking about, well, this is what I'm trying to do. Great. Who can help? Who can help in the other areas of business? Social media has become such a beast in that it's much bigger than what it was 7, 10, 15 years ago, in that it overlaps into different areas of business: sales, human resources, marketing, research and development, customer service. Sales and marketing often get blended together. So marketing is about reaching, I suppose, one to many. It's trying to get as many people with the right tone of voice to your messaging in front of as many people as possible, so they take the action you want. Whereas sales is very much on a personal, one-to-one type of relationship. So you might use social media marketing to tell a story, to engage an audience, to get them to take the action of going to a website. Then you'd have to think about, well, actually, how do we convert them into, if it's a B2B, whether there is a discovery call option, whether there is a, book a tour of a showroom, or whether it's a e-commerce, it's as simple as transaction like an Amazon or something like that. So there is a fine line between what is marketing and sales, but one helps the other. So if you've got a sales team, perhaps it's, well, how do you work closely with them? Because they might be able to help you and give you some ideas about how you create content that's going to push that urgency button online, how you're going to promote the company in the right way. Working across departments, if possible, working across teams. Customer service, I've mentioned earlier, the rise of chatbots, the rise of frequent asked questions. Those tools are massive and they're only getting bigger. Messenger chatbots in particular are becoming more prominent. You might consider installing one of those on your website and having it set up to answer frequently asked questions, opening times, delivery times, what kind of services can you offer. So thinking about your FAQs and then installing them and tuning that messenger chat, that chat bot, so that customers can get the information they want when they want, which is probably the key, because we're such a connected society now. If customers looking at social media 12 o'clock at night, they're awake and they want to get the information, and you've got that information to hand, so you don't need to be manning the chatbot being available, but they can get the information about when you're opening, service times, delivery times, what to expect, FAQs, that kind of stuff. They can answer that at the touch of a button. So it gives you the opportunity to talk to customer service. What are the actual pain points of customers? Why are people complaining? Why are people sending products back? Why are sales teams not having success with maintaining clients? What challenges can you then address? Perhaps you then need to create some content that backs up the pain points or the FAQs. You could create a series of blogs or content or videos to actually address those pain points to help reinforce the messaging. R&D, we've said if you've done social media properly and you've built up an audience and a following, then you've got a fantastic engaged audience that will actually be able to give you insights. They use your products, they use your services. Can you ask them for help? Everyone likes to be asked for help. If you ask them, what do you think about this idea? I'm thinking about this new product. This new, what do you think? How I'm launching this new coaching program. Is it a good idea? What kind of content would you like to see? Ask your audience. You've worked so hard to actually build your online presence and get the people following you, becoming fans, engaging with your brand, becoming customers. Ask them for help. Ask them what do you think about the idea, and you'll be surprised what information and honest information, authentic information that you get back. That's worth considering particularly if you've got some new product ranges or services you're looking at in the business. Human resources, that's a simple one. Are there opportunities to help the business recruit? Job postings on different social platforms? Are the opportunities to reinforce the brand, demonstrate the company culture? For example, a lot of businesses, it's a solicitor in Leeds who use Instagram purely for demonstrate company culture. They built it on a younger platform with a younger demographic to really future-proof their business and attract the up-and-coming rising stars, if you like, in the solicitor and solicitors field by demonstrating all the CSR stuff, the charity stuff, all the things they do outside of being a stuffy solicitor to try and break down that brand. So that kind of information you can get across in a different way, and that can help recruit the future. I hope that makes sense. Thank you. Okay, so onto the social channels themselves. Each platform naturally has a different audience. I think TikTok, very good for the youngsters, really young people. They've got a video-led platform. You've all the way through to LinkedIn, which is very, very professional centric and typically older. You've got Instagram, which is typically millennial age, so that kind of, I suppose my age and a bit younger. And then you've got Facebook, who are Gen X, who are typically 40 plus. So you've got different platforms to consider. So which ones do you choose? Because you could spend, my last time I did some research on social platforms, there were hundreds. There were hundreds of different social channels you could be on. But if you're doing this as a job, you've got 37.5 hours a week typically. I don't know about you, but I don't fancy spending 37.5 hours of my week sat there in front of a computer, being on all these channels. There are tools, fine, I'll share with you that can to make your life easy to go across platform. However, it's impractical and unrealistic to actually be on all social channels. So which ones do you use? So you've got to think about, back to your goal. What am I trying to achieve? Am I trying to get this certain type of target audience? Then I'm going to look at the platform that works for them. So if I'm looking at B2B, for example, LinkedIn is fantastic for that. So just a quick tip, me and Mark were talking before this about LinkedIn as a fantastic tool for your career, as a fantastic tool for demonstrating your personal brand. So if you've not got your LinkedIn profile, I'd suggest you get that brushed up. Nice professional photo, consider your summary, write about your experience, not necessarily as a CV for future careers, but it's a great networking tool. So if perhaps if you're linking it to sales, your strategy, for example, and it's B2B led, you could use LinkedIn as a tool to build up relationships and network with other professionals. Perhaps as the world opens up with a pandemic, you're going to get out more, you're going to go to real life events, you're going to get business card swaps. A quick tip there is, you get a business card, write on the business card, I met Billy Bob at the networking event, connect with them on LinkedIn, send them a personalized message request, and then make sure you qualify where you've met them. And if possible, set up a Zoom coffee or get real life coffee and conversation. That's one way you could use it for linking the marketing with the sales. Just thinking about, I suppose, what you're trying to achieve and which platforms. Loads to choose from. Okay, so just a quick overview, I suppose, by thinking back to when my lifespan of social media. So I'd kind of come in at 98 was my first experience with social media. So this is quite a while ago. But my first experience really was with Yahoo Chat and going in there and actually talking to people. And you can see over the time, for those a little bit older perhaps, that social media is massively involved. There are loads of different platforms you could be, should be, you potentially might want to explore, but there is probably some of these in here that you don't necessarily consider social platforms, but if you can share content online, yes, they're a social media platform. So it's the journey is big. Okay, what else? The business I work for targets families and schools, so Facebook is the main one I use, but it isn't utilized as much as it could be. Yeah, absolutely. So Facebook's a biggie. It's a massive platform. I think there are over 2.2 billion users daily that actually use Facebook as a platform. So chances are, if it's B2B, B2C, your customers are actually on there. I like to think it's a business to a person, whether you're selling B2B, B2B, kind of irrelevant, as long as you've got an understanding about your target audience, what content is going to interest them, and how you can actually engage on a time that suits them. Now, timing is another thing that's key. Yeah, I can hear some of the mics on. Yeah, so social media and Facebook is big. Facebook in particular is fantastic, even B2C. I had the conversation the other day with a customer who's trying to target B2B rather, that in an evening, you've been running around all day, you've been doing your 9 to 5, but they go on Facebook to check their personal feeds, and then all of a sudden you've got some content that pops up on the feed from either a group or a person they know has shared it, or even a sponsored post with some content that's actually interesting to them. That content has been thought about, it's been considered, and it's been crafted and then presented to that person so they can consume it. So Facebook, as much as most people think it's B2C, can be used for B2B as well. Facebook has, I suppose, lots of different usage. You've got groups, they're massively important. So if you're perhaps thinking about, well, actually, how do we get more of my audience? Creating your own group, that can be a way of building your own audience. Linking it back to sales, the R&D, the customer service. You could create your own group and have conversations with key people in there. What else could you? Social advertising, massive. I think it was something like £37 billion was spent last year on Facebook advertising alone and Instagram. For those that didn't know, Instagram's owned by Facebook. So across those platforms, it's huge. Social advertising is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. So you might consider how you can utilize some and invest some of your budget, if it's applicable in the business, to actually create content and then target your customers based off their psychographic, demographic, geographical locations, whether it's Facebook or LinkedIn. LinkedIn's algorithm and the back end in terms of creating ads is a lot more akin and like to Facebook now. So I suppose they pulled or pinched or cajoled some of the Facebook developers across to develop and improve that back end of the platform. Going back to that data point, what's working, what's not working. If you've got things like the Facebook Pixel, the Google Tag Manager, you've got Google Analytics, you've got LinkedIn Insight tag on your website, you can start to collect that data about what's working with campaigns, whether it's organic or whether it's paid for. Yeah. So getting back to the content, I digress there slightly. So what I'm getting at really, and moving this along a little bit, is that content should be built and crafted to engage your audience, and it should be there to enhance the experience. Now, types of content, I'll do this in chat actually. In chat, what kind of content have you seen on your own social media platforms? What kind of content could you use? What kind of content could you use in business, whether it's B2B, B2C? For example, there's a video on my screen. That's the obvious one. Video, while you're doing that, video is fast. It's growing. It's becoming one of the go-to pieces of content to actually get a message across. It's got to be short, sharp, snappy. We've seen content work for us, work in terms of effectiveness as little as 3 seconds to really capture and engage a piece of attention. Case studies, yep. Stories, absolutely. Stories are becoming more and more prominent, telling that story of the company, going back to the solicitors, telling that culture. People want to see it's not just a slick professional brand, whether it's B2C or B2B, it's actually the people behind it. We've got an office dog, see what you'll see on this camera, but people absolutely, that's our highest performing post, a video and a stories of the dog. Everyone loves a dog anyway. But that's the point. We've humanized the brand. We're creating content that's going to engage our potential customers. We've started the conversation, we're communicating, and from there we can start to take that relationship further, where it's starting to book a call with them, or whether it's asking them for their opinion and advice. Competitions, absolutely. Yep, good point. Competitions are fantastic if you've got obviously something to promote and you want to actually build an audience quickly, I suppose. I suppose the quick thing to consider, competitions on Facebook in particular, just be careful if you've done or considering the old like and share competition. Technically, it's against T's and C's of Facebook. So, yeah, I'll need to be careful. I'll say this because it's being recorded. It is professional advice is look up and do your research, but check the Facebook T's and C's with like and share, because you're not allowed to do the like and share and encourage people to share to enter competitions. However, you can get them to comment. So competitions are great. Just make sure you check the platform's T's and C's, for example. But yeah, competitions are great for tapping into viral activity. You can actually encourage people to engage with a brand. They can, as obviously the caveat being, you've got, once it goes viral, you're not quite sure if it's the target audience that you're quite capturing. It's great if you're looking for increasing the vanity, I call them vanity stats, your likes and your comments and your followers, which a lot of people are focusing on. If you just all you're focusing on as part of your goal is to actually increase your following, great, competitions can work well. Just be mindful about the types of people you're actually attracting. It might not be your target customers, it might not be the people that are going to refer or actually buy your product or service. What else have we got? Funny content. Oh yeah, like Aldi. Yeah, absolutely. Aldi, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was Marks and Spencer's and the good old Colin the Caterpillar and Cuthbert the Caterpillar. Absolutely fantastic example of actually how you can have a bit of fun. You can have it engage with our brands and I'll say whether it was a PR stunt or not, I'm not sure. But the fact is, the point is the two brands, they engage with each other and create a bit of cross promotion and a bit of viral activity by having fun online, using the content that was a bit of fun. Absolutely. There are loads of ways you can actually engage your audience online, and I think that's the key. The key is it's not just a pretty post on Facebook or a pretty post on Instagram or a pretty post on Pinterest or any other platforms you could be on. It's not just a well-written, that's all part of it, absolutely. But the key is, it's how do you actually talk with your customers? How does the content resonate? So polls, another example of that. Can you create a poll that actually asks a question? What do you think about this? Going back to the R&D point earlier, what do you think about this idea? Memes, we didn't mention memes. So they're quite funny to actually engage with as well. So look for opportunities. Let's move on a little bit. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a dry throat today. So look for opportunities where you can look for opportunities, things that are trending. Often this is overlooked. It's called social listening. So it's what are your customers actually interested in? Not just with your brand, but what are your competitors talking about? What are your customers, what are your clients, your people that are interested in your brand? What is your audience actually interested in? So one of the ways you can do this is there are loads of social listening tools, from Sprout Social through to Falcon.io. There are loads. The easiest way to do it, if you're on a bit of a budget, you can look at things like Google Trends to see what keywords are actually popular in your sector. There's another fantastic tool called answertherepublic.com, which is great for if you've got, so for me, I'd put social media marketing as a search term, and then it come up with a wheel of frequently asked questions directly into Google. Great tool. I'll put that in the chat actually. Answertherepublic.com. Just type that in there. Republic.com. Check the spelling. Great tool if you're looking at linking in with SEO. So that's search engine optimization, if you didn't know. But it's content that can be searchable, and it's content that, more importantly, from a social perspective, is what people's pain points are, what they're actually searching for online, what content is interesting to your audience. So it's looking for opportunities using social listening as a means. It's looking at your competitors. What are your competitors talking about? What kind of engagement are your competitors getting with their social posts? Whether it's the funny memes, whether it's the polls, whether it's the funny content that Nikki mentioned earlier, whether it's a competition. What are your competitors doing? It's worth doing a quick SWOT analysis: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on your competitors. Maybe pick your top 3 and figure out what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are the opportunities, and what are the threats. And then from there, you can get a little bit of information and look for opportunities that can inform your own social strategy. Massively important to do. I'm just checking I've not missed anything. Yeah, okay. And as I've been saying along, it's like communication. It's all about talking with your audience on terms at a time that suits them. So scheduling tools are a fantastic tool. So a couple, just to throw them out there, these aren't the only ones, but just ones that's come to head we've used in the past. You've got Hootsuite, you've got Buffer, and the current one we use is Metrical. So that's Buffer, Hootsuite, and Metrical. They are social scheduling tools. And if you sat there, common FAQ, if you like, that we come across is, how do I schedule? How do I save time on social? I've got 37.5 hours a week. I'm crafting this content. I'm creating the polls, the infographics. I'm creating all this content. How do I get it out to all my social channels? I can't. It takes time to individually post onto Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Google, My Business, YouTube, even all in platforms, TikTok. It takes time. Scheduling tools allow you to do that with ease. And often you can get up to different, like for example, Metrical allows TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And I probably missed a couple. That's great. I can create my content. I can schedule it through the platform to a time that I think my audience is going to enjoy. So if I'm targeting people at home, I might consider 9 o'clock at night when the kids have been put to bed, if that's an audience I'm after. If it's a different time zone, if I'm trying to target a different audience, perhaps I'm trying to target America, I'll consider scheduling the time to be behind, obviously, the UK time. So scheduling tools are great, time saver, and you can make sure your content goes to the right people at the right time, that they're going to most likely engage. With tools like those I've mentioned, one thing in common, which is the next point, will be about the tracking, the data. I'll come to that shortly. So while I'm still on this particular slide, it's about engaging. The chatbots are massive at the moment. It's about being available to talk to your customers and your audience to build up a relationship and a rapport. Just checking out, missed up anything. Nope. Okay, so moving on to the last point before I actually give you a template to pull this all together, I suppose, is monitor and optimizing your campaign. If you use a scheduling tool, they have often, I'm not trying to push anyone on you, there are loads to choose from. Often they have free elements as well, but what they all have in common is the ability to schedule. Great, that saves you time. Content to the right people at the right time. Great. If you get the right tool, social listening is part of it. It tells you which content is produced, which content you're posting actually is getting the high level engagement, the highest number of reach. It gives you an idea about what you should and could be posting in future. Going back to the numbers, they will tell you right down to the detail of how often, how many, what percentages of content are working well. If you've not considered analytics, the best place and easiest place to start for free is Google Analytics. Just at the very least, install that on your website, and that will give you things like bounce rate. So that's how often people come to the website, the frequency of time they're spending on a particular landing page. Perhaps you've produced a blog that you've shared on social, you've put a link through to the website. They've followed that link through to the website. That's been tracked. X number of people have been reached. X number of people have seen the video or they clicked the link. How many people have landed on the page. How long they've read the blog for. If it's a 3-minute blog and they've switched off and they've spent 30 seconds on the page, there's a problem potentially with your content or the visual to support it. Then are there clear call to actions on the landing page? That customer decision journey. What do you want them to do? There'll be a percentage of people that click the link, land on the page, stay for a certain amount of time, click the call to action, and then either book a meeting. Depends obviously what business, consumer, depends how your business is set up, but there'll be a call to action either way about what you want that customer to do on their decision. If you're doing social media properly, you'll be tracking each and every point all the way through from seeing the content, looking at what's happening in its own right, but what is that customer doing with that piece of content and how do you make that campaign better? So for example, you might have if you're doing social advertising, for example, you might have a budget of X. You'll then know X number of pounds has been spent, X number of time has been spent in terms of your resource. That has yielded X number of new likes, the vanity stats, the X number of people have seen it, they've reached, or they've had an impression, it's appeared in their feed. You'll know how many people have engaged with the ad. So what does that mean? That's sharing, that's commenting, that's clicking a link, that's watching a percentage of the video. You'll have that data. Then you'll know how many people have clicked the link and gone to where you want them to do. If it's a webinar or if it's a read a blog or buy a product, you can measure that click-through rate percentage. And then you can track what's going on at the next step of the customer decision journey, whether it's to get in touch, download an ebook, download a lead magnet, whatever you want them to do, make sure you're tracking and measuring it, because at the end of each month, I have this conversation with clients and customers, and you'll have it with your bosses, managers, and colleagues. Great, you spent 37.5 hours this week. What does success look like? What have you done? What are the results from your hard work? No one will doubt you've worked hard, but what they will want to understand from a business perspective is what value have you created for that business. That means how many people have seen the brand, going back right to the beginning about the challenges, solving those challenges, how many new people have got to the website, how many new likes have we got, how many new people have engaged in the brand, how many new conversations have we started in chatbot, how many new sales inquiries have we created, how many people have added to the cart but not bought, how many people have followed your sequence of campaign all the way through and actually purchased. They're going to ask you those questions. You need to be able to obviously answer them. And then more importantly, great, this is the data, this is as it is, this is what we've done, this is the data. And then you can make informed decisions about the next campaign, the next month, the next 3 months. You can make those decisions about, well, 20% drop-off rate in here. Okay, next month we're going to increase the conversion of people watching the video by X% by shortening the length. We're going to make it more fun and engaging. We're going to make it short, sharp, and snappy. We're going to test this hypothesis, run the campaign, and then look at the data at the end. Hopefully that kind of makes sense with that. Okay, so just to tie it together before I open up a Q&A. Excuse me. So this is a couple of templates we use, and this is one. I've tried to anonymize it, so hopefully it should be. This is based off a real campaign. But this is a framework. Again, if Mark allows, I can share this with you later. Well, it gives you a template to work around to consider tying together all the 7 points I've made throughout this last 40 minutes or so, is how you can bring it to life. So what you can talk about, you can have the ideas, but how do we make it into something that's going to be understandable? Perhaps you're working with colleagues. How do we work together? How do I share successes with the management team? This is a little one-page strategy. I prefer simplicity. I've done 24, 25-page strategy before. And to be honest, in 7 years, and all the times I've done those big lengthy strategy and reports, nobody's got time to read them, if I'm honest. They like to think they've got a plan and a strategy, but for me, it's about simplicity. If you can make it easy, simple, and you can elaborate around each point, great. That seems to work so much more better. So this is built around the race framework. There's some reading lists at the end if you want to learn much more about this guy called Dave Chaffney. We build all our strategies around this race framework. So it's about reaching your customers. It's about getting what strategies can we put into place in the social media sphere to get them to act? What can we do to help them, make it easy to convert? And then how do we get them to engage? So when you think about reach, act, convert, and engage, that's all the kind of elements you need within a plan on here. So just to talk it through for simplicity's sake, this particular campaign was all about, the challenge was, right, we've got low traffic threshold and low number of people come to the website. How do we get more people through? Okay, so that's the objective. Got low followers. What we're going to do, we're going to create blog posts, content. We're going to use influencer outreach. We're going to guest blog, and we're going to do Facebook advertising. All activity will generate a percentage of new people coming to the website. We can track all of that. Great. That's what we're planning on doing for the next 90 days. Fantastic. All that increased activity is going to do something. People are going to then start to interact with the brand, with the business. So how many of them can we generate? We're going to aim for 100 new inquiries to sign up for this, or it's downloads, or whatever you want them to do. It's what actions do you want them to take? You increase the following, you increase the number of people seeing your content, you're engaging with the brand, great, but you want them to do something. Is it an ebook? Is it a webinar? What is it you want to do? Is it to see a certain new product that you've launched on an e-commerce site? Whatever you're trying to achieve, measure it. Obviously it's there. And then the step 3 and step 4 is about conversion. How many of them convert into customers? And then the bit that's often overlooked with social media strategy is about retention. Like I said earlier, it's harder to get a new customer and easier to keep one, but oftentimes people fail to look after the customers they've got. So how do you get them to come back? How do you get them to leave you a testimonial, a review, a social proof? A little tip and a strategy you can do there. Grab the Google review link from obviously Google, your business, grab the review button, copy the URL and send a nice little polite email to a new customer or existing customers even, or clients, and ask them to leave you a 5-star review. Send them the link, make it easy. That's one quick win you can do to get your social proof. Because think about your own buying behavior. You probably do this. You're looking for product, service, holiday, shoes, whatever it is. You go to Google, you do a search, and then you look at the reviews. If they've got, if you're like me, I always look at the negative reviews first before I look at the good. They might have 4.9 stars, 700 fantastic reviews and 2 negatives, but I'll look at the negatives and I want to know what is the worst case scenario with this product or service. And then more important, I suppose, from a brand perspective, have they actually replied to that response? Did they actually take ownership? That they communicate with the customer? So if you've got negative reviews, absolutely consider how you can actually engage with people making criticisms, perhaps there's an R&D opportunity off the back of it, perhaps, you know, genuinely the product or service is crap. Okay, well, they've got an opportunity to improve. So that's one way of doing it. Then this is another thing you can do, Google Doc or Microsoft Doc or whatever you want to do. Tying it back to the strategy for the business, tying it back to a 3-month short-term plan, and then breaking it down into your tactics and per platform. I mean, I've done these before, and these can be 9-10 pages, these ones, but they're simple enough that you should be able to give it to anybody in the team so they've got an idea about what's going on. So who is in charge of what bit, what are you going to do, what are you going to write, how are you going to generate a following, how often are you going to post, what your targets are, you know, what are the business strategies, plan, and short-term strategies as well. That's that. Hold any questions for now. I'm sure you will have a lot around this, which we'll have good conversation. I'm just going to wrap it up in 2 minutes, and then we'll open it up for conversation. Some reading lists. These are, if you're an academic or you like studying or you want to learn more, or you really are like this and you're dedicated to this sector and social media world, and you want to learn more about digital, massive growing sector, like I said earlier, these are some good sources you can digest. I mean, the Dave Chaffney one, I'm only halfway through his book. His book is a chunky thing, but the information in there is fantastic. I've been doing it for 7 years, plus obviously my wealth of experience behind that. But what I'm getting at is learning is a constant thing. Learning is a constant, evolution. It's about how do you get information so you can bring it into your job, your day-to-day, your social media. So these are some, you may have come across some of these already. If not, go away, have a look. And then just to summarize, so you might have some questions around these points. So have a think now. And if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat while I wrap up the next bit. And we'll go from there. Okay, so just to tie it off, don't tell me the sky's the limit when there are footprints on the moon. So thinking about your career aspirations there, where do you want to be? How are you going to get there? And hopefully this little webinar has helped. I know I've covered a lot there, and each one could be a full day in its own right. So if you've got any questions, my details are on the screen. If you've got any specific questions now, I'll say we have time for a Q&A, plenty of time for Q&A. So if you want to dive into something specifically, we can do that. If I stop sharing, that's it, I think, Mark.
Just to mute myself, sorry. Thanks for that, Chris. I thought that was brilliant, some really good content in there. I don't know what everyone else would, hopefully they'd agree, but for those people that are using social media in their jobs, and quite a few people on the webinar here will be using social media at least as part of their job. I thought I completely agree with you on the kind of race thing. It's just a really simple way of looking at it, and hopefully all these people watching can take it back to their employers and workplaces and start to do that stuff if they're working on social media. One question I had quickly is, quite a few people we discussed it yesterday. Quite a few people are doing side hustles as well. So some of this stuff will be useful, as a side hustle, wouldn't it? Because most people in this generation seem to have something they're doing on the side.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't interfere. And also, you mentioned about LinkedIn. We learned a lot about LinkedIn yesterday. How would you say LinkedIn fits in with this sort of stuff?
Yeah. I suppose it goes back to the goals. I suppose what you're trying to achieve with your social campaign. LinkedIn is a fantastic tool. I use it on a day-to-day for business to business. That's my element of Shoo, is to grow the business with other businesses. And if you're using it, as I suppose, coming from an employer's perspective, it's a tool that you can use for, forming my sentence here. From an employee's perspective, it's your CV. It's your opportunity to stand out from your competition if you're looking at careers point of view. If you're looking at it as a business tool, it's you've got a sales navigator on there, you've got groups on there, you've got conversations you can engage with, you can trending patterns, you've got tools, your ways of actually talking to people you want to talk to. So perhaps you've got an element in there that is B2B sales. you can connect with X number of people per week. You can like and share their content and join in their conversations. Hope that helps. It's a bit of a waffly answer, but
yeah, it comes back to what you discussed before in terms of, people engage with you, not just a business. So
yeah.
they might check you out on LinkedIn as well, even though they're engaging with a business, mightn't they? So
Yeah, absolutely. People by people. As you probably know, Mark, as well. I think you saw the dog running across there.
yeah.
So yeah, people absolutely by people. We've got a very specific type of, there he is, he's off again. It's lunchtime. So we've got a very specific type of customer. We've got a very specific type of staff. We've got Fran there, Molly, we've got Alan, Rachel, the dog. It's all about getting the brand. Great. We look professional online. We come across, we talk, we do all the stuff you'd expect from a social company. But if you're making a decision, you want to know who is behind the scenes, who is Chris, who is Rachel, who's Mark, who's Ellie, who's Nikki, who are these people behind the brand? And LinkedIn, I suppose, gives you that platform to build up a personal one-to-one relationship. And if you're going from a customer service perspective, to answer questions, to build up that genuine rapport with somebody. If that makes sense.
There's a really good question here from Edwin. Can you see that?
Yep. TikTok seems to be a must nowadays for social media marketing. Obviously, a lot of pros because it's an instant format and creativity aspect. What would you say are the cons of promoting on such platform and that some people may fail to be aware of? Some of the cons, probably the first one that springs to mind there is your audience on there. Who are you trying to talk to? And if they are typically a younger audience, 8 to 15 or something like that, then TikTok's going to be a good platform to engage and to share content. If it's we have TikTok as a business. Is it a platform for us to talk to that Gen X person? No. So we know our target audience isn't on there. So I definitely consider about target audience. The instant format, I suppose the benefit being, putting a different spin on it, you can use that video, that content you've created on TikTok, and then cross promote it onto other channels. So you're not wasting that content, you can repurpose it. So it does have its pros from that perspective. You've got obviously the music, and it's geared for that quick, fast content, which perhaps Instagram and Facebook aren't quite there yet with reels and stories and all the other elements. Dog time. So yeah, just become conscious of who you're trying to talk to, I suppose. And I suppose you can make an argument that TikTok's great for future-proofing your business. It's not going anywhere at the moment. You've got the so by future-proofing, I mean you've got the opportunity to engage a younger audience with a view to when they are older, they're going to be used to and be familiar with TikTok, and they're going to be more inclined to remember brands and companies that are also on that platform as well. Hope that helps.
Another great question from Ellie there. Can you read that?
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. Thanks, Edwin, for that. Good question. On a personal level, I'm not really used to TikTok much. It's more of a Rachel and a Molly thing. Okay, so best tools, resources for those new to data analysis. Yeah, fantastic question. Okay, so best tools. My go-to place is looking in the platform themselves, which is a bit of a cop-out answer. Google Analytics is a fantastic source of analysis in terms of data. You can use what's known as a UTM code, which allows you to put, you've probably seen in fact, if you look in the chat, you've seen there's a UTM code in that link I put there for free for the ebook that can go with this. There's UTM content and there's UTM link and there's a source. That UTM code there that you can create, it allows you to track people. So if you click that link now, when I go into my Google Analytics, I'll be able to see how many people have engaged with that link. So that's one easy way of doing it. Other resources you can use, there are paid for platforms such as Metrical, Buffer, Hootsuite that allow you to look at what's going on. And by that, I mean, you can see the level of engagements, the percentage of video views, you can look at the timings of posts that's worked well. A lot of the tools with a bit of financial investment will give you a lot of information you you need. So you don't have to manually do it. If you were to manually do it, which I've done before, can take hours and days, but you can do it if you don't necessarily have the financial backing to get the tools at the outset. You can export the data from a platform, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever, export the data into an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can turn it into your graphs and you digest the information from there. Hope that helps. Is Google Academy workshops good enough for Google Analytics? Not much experience with the Google Academy, if I'm honest, but yeah, any training you can get from Google is good. Courses I've been on before with Google are worthwhile. Same for Facebook, same for Google. All the platforms that you can get the experience on, I'd suggest you sign up to them, take them for what they are, go with an open mind, make your notes, digest, and have a go at implementing them into the business. But Google Analytics in particular is probably one of the best free platform tools you can use for a business to track what users are actually doing on your website. But just, I suppose, a tip there for me would be to make sure you've got your conversion set up properly, so you know what you're tracking, whether it's a thank you page, whether it's certain landing pages, and going from there. Thanks.
Okay. So anyone else got any questions that they want to unmute themselves for, or ask in the chat? Feel free. Or we've got Chris on the line. What we can do, Chris, as well, if there's any other things that you think would be beneficial, if we could get your slides, and then if you've got any links or anything else you think's beneficial, we can send it out to everyone when we send out the follow-up, and obviously this will go up on YouTube so that you know our 6 subscribers can benefit from it.
Yeah, six more than nothing. Let's start somewhere.
Yeah. It's not really designed for that purpose. We're not trying to be a YouTuber.
No.
Trying to, but yeah.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, they just go back to the work booklet. So the work booklet is something I've used before, which I think is quite handy for someone who's just thinking about social media and as a whole. So that link is in there. Obviously, download it, copy it, do what you want with it. It's there to be used. I'll send the race template and the social media summary templates. There's 2 templates you can utilize. And I suppose if you've got any information or any questions, rather, just give me a shout.
Yeah, that's great. So unless anyone else has got any questions, we'll let everyone go get their lunch, and
Yes, please. Oh, thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, it shows where you are in the pecking order, Chris. The dog gets fed before you do.
I know. I was watching it going in now. I'm like, oh, come on. We've got a cage just literally next door to my desk. So yeah, I had to throw him in there just before I came on the call because, dog puppies are like.
Yeah, I hope that was beneficial to everyone anyway. So thanks again, Chris, and thanks for everyone for tuning in again. And hopefully there'll be lots more beneficial for you. So we'll send all this out and look on the YouTube channel for the other ones we've done, and get your emails for the other ones coming out, because they're all really useful, and if you can't make them live, then they're on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, brilliant. And thank you, Ellie, for keeping your camera on for the entire thing. You're the only one that I could see over the mic. I was like, fantastic. Cheers, guys. Take care.
Everyone. Bye.